Hi, welcome in. So thank you for joining me again for another installment of recipes that I have been collecting for years. So we are going to pick a recipe that I got from a book that it's actually a book series by Elin Hilderbrand, and it is called the Paradise Trilogy. This one lady in there was constantly making these lemon sugar cookies, and I said, that sounds amazing. So it's a recipe that I went online, I found, printed it off, put it in my folder. I would make it someday. And well, today it's very cold outside where I'm at, and I figured I'd want something summery, something light, something to make me hope that these winters are a lot shorter, but we'll see what happens. So, like I always said, first things first, mise en place, and read your recipe. So, when I was reading this recipe a couple days ago after deciding to do this one, I discovered that the last ingredient on here says a 1/4 cup of lemon sugar recipe for rolling cookies. I didn't know what that was, so I had to go and find this recipe online, and there was actually a link I was supposed to click that would give me a recipe to make this roll, to roll the cookies in right before I baked them off, just kind of like a snickerdoodle. You roll them in cinnamon and sugar. So I looked online, and it says to make a 1/4 cup of this lemon sugar recipe, you need a 1/4 cup of sugar and 1 tablespoon of lemon zest, which is about a half of a lemon. Particularly, I'm not very fond of zesting lemons because I'm always terrified that I'll get some of the pith, and the pith is just below the skin, and it's a usually very bitter taste, and you can tell if you accidentally get it. So I was very ginger as to how I peeled it, and I probably could have peeled a little bit more off the lemon. So it took me a lot more lemons than that to get my zest for this recipe. I want to be safer than sorry, because it could ruin a recipe if you get any of that pith in. So we're going to get started here on making these lemon sugar cookies, and I hope you stay tuned. Okay, first thing for this recipe, it wants us to preheat our oven to 350 degrees. So that's always the standard, so just turn it on and we'll get that preheating. And I did place parchment paper on my cookie sheet. It says a Silpat or parchment paper. I do have some Silpats, however, unfortunately, since I have a rimmed baking sheet, they don't lay properly. So I cut a piece of parchment paper to fit flatly in the bottom. Okay, so first things first. So I need to put in 1 cup of softened butter. So that is 2 sticks of butter. And I cut it up into about a tablespoon, just so it would be easier to mix up. And I need to combine that with 1½ cups of sugar. In a bowl, and cream together until light and fluffy. So it's about 3 minutes. Okay, mix is now creamy, and I need to add 1 large egg. And just until combined, okay? Get it off the beaters. Okay, and now we need to stir in the flour, baking powder, and salt. Get it off my beaters here. So to this, we're going to add 2 1/4 cups of flour. 2 1/4 cups of flour, a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Okay, mix this up a little bit. Then I'm going to add my lemon first with the zest and then the juice. So 4 tablespoons of lemon zest. That is going to add a really good lemon flavor. And then I need 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. So 2 different types of lemon to make sure that lemon flavor goes throughout and hits you in different notes when you eat it. And also my last is going to be 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So I mix this all up until combined. Mix this all up here. The lemon smell is just amazing. It smells so fresh. Okay, and once this is combined, I have to let it set for 3 minutes before I roll it out. Okay, it's been 3 minutes. That allows the lemon flavor to develop inside this dough, so it's even more powerful than it would be if you just mixed it and immediately put it in the oven. So now it's asking us to get tablespoons. So I have one of these. I like them because everything is uniform and I know that everything's gonna bake evenly. So you're just gonna scoop it out. Take this sugar that I made before. I'm gonna roll it in here so it gets nice and coated, because this is where a lot of your flavor is gonna come from. I like that crust on the outside. That's one of my favorite things about snickerdoodles. And you're gonna get some nice sugaring on there and put them on there. So we're gonna roll out the rest. This recipe does make 24 cookies, so I'm gonna do 2 pans of 12. I'm gonna put one in first, and then I'm gonna see how they bake, judge the time, and I'm gonna get on to the next one. So let me roll these out, and then we will put them into the oven. Okay, I have them all rolled out. I have 12 of them on this tray. They look very nice. So I'm going to pop these into the oven. It says for 10 to 12 minutes. Now, like I said, any given day your oven can act differently. So I am going to put them on 8 minutes, check them. Then I'm going to check them every 2 minutes after that. They need to be lightly browned. So that's left up to interpretation. But you also got to remember that cookies, a lot of stuff that comes out of the oven, does continue to cook after you bring it out. So you're going to want them where they're just slightly brown. They might cook up a little bit sitting on the tray. So I'm going to pop these in, and we are going to see what we have in 8 minutes. Okay, timer is going off at 8 minutes, and we are going to check and see what we have. Cookies have spread out a little bit, however, they still do not appear to be golden brown. I see some browning on the bottom, so we're going to give it another 2 minutes, and then we are going to check them. Okay, it's been 2 more minutes, so now we're at 10 minutes. That is the lower end, 10 to 12 minutes. Let's see what we have. Okay, so these are looking slightly better. They're still not really browned on top. I want to see what the bottoms look like. I'm just curious. Okay, so the bottoms are lightly browned. So I don't know if I want to go any more than that. I'm pretty happy with how they look and how the texture is on top. So I'm going to call it at 10 minutes. I'm going to put them on a platter and I'm going to bake up the rest of them, and we'll be back here to try them. Okay, what seems like forever, I finally have them all baked off. Now, I used what I thought was, and what I've always thought to be, a teaspoon scooper. So I used it and I got way more than 24 cookies out of this. So maybe you need to use a slightly bigger scooper. So the cookies are actually kind of small, which doesn't bother me any. So if you want, I would use definitely a bigger scoop. So let's try them. Ooh, they're nice and chewy. I can tell. Very bold and delicious lemon buttery taste. It's throughout the entire cookie. That little crust on the outside, wow, it gives it, like I said, again, a snickerdoodle texture. It's not too overpoweringly lemon though. It's lemon in the forefront, and then in the back you get that nice butter texture, and it makes the cookies chewy, but it also just finishes off in your palate. It's very, very good. Like I said, oops, making these a little too small, but that's fine. I'm still going to eat them, and I will still share them with people. So I would definitely do a bigger scoop, probably the next size up, to get more close to that 24 cookie mark. Have them big. They don't really spread out too terribly much, but I do like these, and I definitely will make these again. So again, these were the lemon sugar cookies, and I got this recipe from Add a Pinch. I'll put the link in the description, and I hope to see you next time on the recipe project. Thank you again.